and that you had an amazing day. All right, so we are about to start our lesson, right? Our grade 4 lesson, or grade 4 English lesson on regular past tense, right? So we will be talking about past tense, but regular past tense. All right, and before we start, you're going to click on aplusstudents.ca. Once you've clicked on aplusstudents.ca, and then you're going to log in with your username as well as your password. All right, so once you've logged in with your username as well as your password, and then you are going to select the subject of language arts. And then we're going to grade 4 because we are doing a grade 4 English lesson on regular past tense. All right, and then you're going to the chapter that we are going to be focusing on is regular past tense. So you're going to scroll down to the chapter up until you get regular past tense. All right. So once we have set the subject of the chapter of regular past tense, and now we are going to the lessons that we're going to be focusing on is identify verbs in the regular past tense, which sentence is in the regular past tense, and form and use the regular past tense. So that is going to be our focus lessons for today. All right, so we're going to the first one, or the first lesson, which is to identify verbs in the regular past tense. All right, so past tense, right? So the past tense usually tells about something that has happened already, right? So in the past, it means that it happened already, right? And regular past tense verbs, we ended by adding an ed, right? It's like saying, I wash the car now. But within, or let's say in the past, right? I washed the car, or we washed the car a few days ago. And a few days ago, it basically gives them the indication that it is in the past tense, right? It happened already. It happened already. So we washed the car a few days ago, right? So washed being we added an ed, right, to show the past tense, right? So we are also going to find out more as to adding an ed to a verb, right? Or specifically just adding a d if the verb ends with an e, right? So in this case, we washed the car a few days ago, right? Which means that washed is our regular past tense verb, right? So washed that ends in ed. So the ed is an indication that it happened in the past, right? So once again, the past tense, it usually tells us about something that has happened already, right? It happened already. And regular past tense verbs, it ends in ed. All right, so now if we look at the sentence, right? It says we need to select the past tense verb. So we need to select the past tense verb. The dog buried the bone. So the dog buried the bone, right? We need to select the past tense verb within that sentence. The action that takes place, the verb that takes place, but in the past tense. So the dog buried the bone, right? So if we select the past tense verb within that sentence, then we can select it as buried, or we select buried, right? And buried, if we look at the word buried, right, the present tense verb, right, or the word of buried, which is in the past, is to bury, right? To bury or something, right? But now we had to add the ed, right, which means that we drop the y, we add the ied, right, which means buried. All right. Tan hurried to school. So Tan hurried to school, right? We need to select the past tense verb within the sentence. Hurried. All right, so if we select the past tense verb within the sentence, then we can say it is hurried, right? So hurried is the past tense verb of hurry, right? And what happens is that if we put this word hurried in the past tense, then we drop the y and we add the ed. It's basically adding the ed, however, our y now becomes an I, right? Hurried. So before we continue, let us quickly go to this page over here, right? Because now some of our sentences have specific rules and pronunciations, right? So here it says past tense regular verbs, right? We have rules, examples, and a pronunciation practice, right? So this is our normal verb, right? This is just our normal verb, which also shows present, right? Or the present tense. And then the arrow facing down shows to our verb, which is in the past tense, right? And also how it changed. And we specifically said that we need to add ed. So the rule is to add ed to our regular past tense verb, right? For example, play, right? So I play, right? Yesterday I played, right? So here, as you can see, we added the ed to the verb play, right? In order to change the word into a regular past tense verb, and that is played, right? Like, like. Earlier on, I mentioned if your verb ends ends with an e, right? So if your verb ends with an e, then it means that instead of adding ed, you are only going to add d, right? Because it's already an e, basically, right? So like, liked. So liked is the past tense or the regular past tense verb, liked. Now we have, for example, cry, right? Where our verb it ends with a y. So our verb ends in y. So if our verb ends in y, for example, like hurry and bury that we did earlier on within our example sentence, right? Then if we change that word into a past tense or regular past tense verb, like cried to cried, which shows the past tense verb, and then what we do is we drop the y, right? We basically add the I as well as the ed. So cry, I cry today, and yesterday I cried, which means that we drop the y and we replace the y with an I, and then we also added ed. So it's as if we added ied, right? Without the y. And then we have stopped, right? For example, stopped, right? So over here, we have stop, which shows present tense. So stop shows present tense. And then in the regular past tense, right? Now, regular past tense, we then say stopped. And in this case, we did not just add an ed, we added another p and then the ed, right? So it basically looks as if the rules kind of change because it specifically said that with the past tense or regular past tense, we add ed. That was the rule. However, see how it kind of changes within certain wordings, right? But as long as we know how or what wording or what, let's say, letters to basically add in order to change the regular verb to the regular past tense verb, right? All right. If we now look at the picture over here, right, which shows an example of the past ed spelling, right? And this is now once again giving us the rules as mentioned above, right? In the above picture. We have our infinite or normal verb, and then we have our past tense verb, which we are showing now. And then we have our different spellings, right? And what to basically add, right? So this is basically just a continuation of what we or what was discussed specifically like in connection with the rules. So here we have the finite verb, infinite verb, which is, for example, watch. So watch shows now, right? And then we have our past tense, right, which is watched, and we added an ed, right? And then also, like we said, the spelling, which is it's basically just the general rule where we just add an ed. So watch or play shows the present tense, shows what we're doing now, and we call that an infinite. And then we have the past, right, where we just basically added an ed to watch as well as to play, right? And then it changed the regular present tense verb to a regular past tense verb. So watch and watched, play, played. So the general rule over here is basically just to add the ed, right? All right, now we have like. I remember earlier on I mentioned that if your verb ends with an E, right? For example, like or arrive. So instead of us then adding an ED to the word like or arrived, right? We are just going to add a D, right? So after, so once the word ends with E, for example, like, and there you can see it's like, ends with E. So after the E, we're going to just add a D. So you're not still going to add the ED, right? Because then it's as if it's going to be a double E, right? So we just add an ED, or we basically just add a D, right? All right, then we have study, right? This is now where our finite verb or our regular verb, it basically ends with a Y. So study or try, right? So if we then write that within the regular past tense verb, then it's going to be studied or tried, right? And as you can see, the Y drops, or we delete the Y, or we remove the Y. And then after the consonant, right? After whatever the letter is that comes before the Y, right? We then add the IED, right? So remember, we delete, remove, or take away the Y, and we add IED. Then we have stop, for example, right? Stop or rob, right? However, if we were to write that in the regular past tense verb, then our rule is basically where the consonant and the vowel is going to have a double consonant plus the ed, right? So, for example, stop. So now it's going to be double P, ed. Robbed, double B E D, right? So it's going to be stopped. Well done. All right, so now we're going back to our tutorial lesson. Okay, the next sentence is we need to select the past tense verbs. He agrees to do it. He agreed to do it. Agreed. We need to select the past tense verb. He agreed to do it. Agreed to do it. We need to select the past tense verb within the sentence. And we see that the past tense usually tells us about something that has already happened, right? And with most regular past tense verb, we basically just add an ed, right? So agree, right? And remember, based on the rule or what we mentioned earlier on, if the word ends with an e, like agree, then we do not still add an ed, we basically just add a d, right? So which means that it's going to be agreed, right? So agree, and we just added the d at the end in order to show that it is the regular past tense verb. All right. All right, so once again, let me just go over the two questions over here. The dog buried the bone. The dog buried the bone, right? Which means that if we select the regular past tense verb within the sentence, then we can say that buried is our past tense verb. Buried. Tan hurried to school. So Tan hurried to school. We need to select the regular past tense verb within the sentence, right? Tan hurried to school. All right, then it means that we are going to choose the word hurried, right? And hurried is the regular past tense verb of the verb hurry, right? And we said hurry, as we can see, hurry ends with a Y. And we said that if we change that to a regular past tense verb, then we either remove the Y, delete the Y, take away the Y, and we add, remove it, and we add I E D, right? So now it becomes hurried, and now change to the past tense verb. All right, so now let us go to our test. Right, so we're going to go to our test where we need to identify verbs within the regular past tense. All right, so now it says select the past tense verb. Select the past tense verb. Michelle's balloon popped. We need to choose the past tense verb. Is it balloon or is it popped? The past tense verb. Balloon or popped. So Michelle's balloon popped. All right, so if we select the regular past tense verb within that sentence of Michelle's balloon popped, and then we are going to select popped. So if you said popped, then well done. So popped is showing the action that happened in the past. I accepted the gift. I accepted the gift. Is it accepted or is it gift? That is the regular past tense verb. Accepted or gift. We need to select the regular past tense verb. All right. If we select the regular past tense verb, and we will choose accepted, right? And we will added an ed. Sophie hugged her grandma. Sophie hugged her grandma. We need to select the regular past tense verb within the sentence. Is it hugged or is grandma the regular past tense verb? And remember, we earlier on we mentioned a few rules, right? Hugged or grandma. So Sophia hugged her grandma. All right, so firstly, the action that's taking place plus the regular past tense verb, we can say that hugged is our regular past tense verb. And if you wrote hugged, then well done. Well done, because hugged is correct. My head ached. My head ached. Is head the regular past tense verb or ached the regular past tense verb? So my head ached. We need to select the regular past tense verb, right? Is it head or is it ached? All right, so if we select the regular past tense verb within the sentence, right, and then we are going to select ached. So if you have ached or you selected ached as the regular past tense verb, then well done. Well done. So ache is correct. All right, so now we're going back and we're going to our next lesson, which is which sentence is in the regular past tense, right? So now we need to specifically say which sentence is within the regular past tense. And once again, we see that the past tense, it usually tells us about something that has already happened, right? And regular past tense verbs, they end in ed, right? They either end in ed or we add a d or we add the ied, depending on whatever our verb is. All right, so they want to know which sentence is in the past tense. Which sentence is in the past tense? We will decorate the room. We will decorate the room. Will decorate, does it give us an indication that it is in the past tense? Will decorate, right? So if we look at the word will decorate, and then will decorate is not the correct answer, right? It does not give us the indication that it is in the past tense, right? Will decorate, it gives us the indication that it must still happen, right? Which is in the future tense. And over here, we need to say which sentence is in the past tense. So if we were to write the sentence over into the past tense, we can then say we decorated the room, right? Then we say we decorated, added the D, the room, right? So we decorated the room. And since the verb already ends with an E, right? Instead of adding ed, we only added the D, right? To that verb to make it into the past tense, right? Decorated the room. So not will decorate, because will decorate will means that we are showing the future tense, right? And in this case, we are focusing on regular past tense. So instead of will decorate, we say decorated the room. All right, let's go to the next one. The champions celebrate. The champions celebrate, right? We need to select the correct, basically, verb that shows the past tense. The champions celebrate. All right, so if we look at the word celebrate, right? Celebrate shows what's happening now, right? And we basically need to show that specific sentence within the past tense. So if we were to change celebrate or the sentence that says the champions celebrate into the past tense, then we can say the champions, oopsie. So we're saying the champions celebrated, right? So once again, the word or this verb, it ends with an E, right? And we said once it ends with an E, we only add a D instead of ED to the specific verb. So ED tells us that something has happened. Celebrated. I admire your courage. I admire your courage. We need to say which sentence is in the past tense. I admire your courage. All right, so we need to change this word admire, which is now, it shows the present tense, and we need to show that within the past tense. All right, so admire. Admire means now, right? It is the present tense. It's something that you're doing now. And remember, we need to write it within the past tense. So if we write it within the past tense, and then we can say, I admired your courage, right? So I admired, which shows the past tense. So once again, the verb, it ends with an E. So we say that if the verb ends with an E, then we just add a D in order to show the regular past tense verb, right? So admired your courage. All right, so now this is basically what we did was we had to change the sentence, right, into the past tense, right? And remember, whenever we see will and the verb, then it means that it is in the future tense because it still needs to happen. All right, let's go to our test. Which sentence is in the past tense? We are now going to select the sentence that is in the past tense. The rain stopped, or Shannon braids her hair. We need to select the sentence that is in the past tense. Is it the rain stopped, or Shannon braids her hair? The rain stopped, or Shannon braids her hair? All right, so if we were to select the past tense or the sentence that shows past tense, right, then we are going to say the rain stopped, right? So stopped, which is double PED, it gives us the indication that it is in the past because braids is something that she's doing now, but stopped is in the past. So stopped is the correct regular past tense verb. Hugo adjusted to the change, or we will avoid traffic. So we need to select the sentence that is in the past tense. Is it Hugo adjusted to check to the change, or we will avoid traffic, right? We will avoid traffic, or Hugo adjusted to the change. All right, so if we look at the sentence, right, which is either Hugo adjusted to the change, so the word adjusted is underlined, as well as we will avoid traffic. Will avoid is also underlined. If we select the correct sentence that shows the past tense, then we are going to select Hugo adjusted, right? It shows that what Hugo did in the past, right? He adjusted to change, right? Because the next one that says we will avoid traffic, that shows the future tense. So Hugo adjusted to change is the correct answer. Which sentence is in the past tense? Browning will deliver the newspaper, or Cassie balanced on one foot. So Browning will deliver the newspaper, or Cassie balanced one on one foot. Cassie balanced on one foot, or Browning will deliver the newspaper. We need to select the sentence that is in the past tense. All right, so if we select the sentence that is in the past tense, right, and then we are going to select Cassie balanced on one foot. So if you said balanced, then that is correct, right? Because the word balanced, it shows the past tense regular verb, right? Because will deliver, it means that it must still happen, right? And we are talking about the past. So Cassie balanced on one foot is correct. So if you have balance, then well done. She relied on Stephen's help. She relied on Stephen's help, or I admire your courage. We need to choose the correct sentence which shows the past tense. So is it she relied on Stephen's help, or I admire your courage? All right, so if we select the correct sentence which shows the past tense, then we can say she relied on Stephen's help, right? So relied, because admire means something that is happening now, right? And we are specifically talking about the regular past tense verb. So relied, if you have relied, she relied on Stephen's help, then that is well done. So well done to you. All right, so now we're going back, right? So we're going back and then we are going to the last one, which is to form and use the regular past tense, right? So we need to form and use the regular past tense. Let's select that one. Form and use the regular past tense. All right, so once again, we say that the past tense, it usually tells us about something that has happened already, right? And to form the regular past tense, we need to start with the base form of the verb, right? So basically, what the actual base verb is before we can either change it to a past tense verb or a future tense verb, but in this case, the past tense verb. So the past tense, it usually tells about something that has already happened, right? And to form the regular past tense, you need to start with the base form of the verb, right? The base form, it basically shows the present. Then follow these specific rules, right? Then we're going to have to follow the rules. And we said for most verbs, right? Let's say most regular verbs, we add an ed to the base form. We basically add an ed, right? That is basically the rule for most verbs, where we add an ed to the base form and then it changes the word from a, let's say, a present tense verb to the regular past tense verb. All right. So they want us to follow these specific rules, right? And we said for most verbs, we need to add an ed to the base form, right, of our verb. We have, for example, walk. So walk is our base form verb, right? If we were to change that word or the base form word walk into the past tense, right? Then we are going to add the ed to the base form. So if the base form is walked, then we basically just add ed to the word walk, which will change to walk. So they walked to school last Friday, right? And remember we said most of our verbs they end in ed and shows the regular past tense verbs. So if the base form of the word ends either in E, then we need to only add a D. You're not still going to add an ED, right? We're only adding a D, right? Because the base form is already ending in E, right? So which means that if we are going to add another E, and then it will basically have two E's within that word, right? So if we look at the example, right, the first example says bike, right? So bike is our base form of the verb. So bike, right? If we change that word to a regular past tense verb, and then our word goes from bike to bike. So they biked to school last Friday, meaning that they took their bike, but we didn't say they biked to school, right? Meaning that they took their bicycles to school on Friday, which was last week Friday, right? And last week Friday gives us the indication that it is in the past. And as you can see, the word bike, right? The word bike, it ends with an E. So which means that if it ends with an E, we don't add ED, we only add the D, right? So we only add the D. And then if the base form ends in the consonant Y, for example, like hurry, then we drop the Y, right? Or we change the Y or we replace the Y by adding an I, and then we also add an ED, right? So we drop the Y, change the Y to I, and then we add ED. So from hurry to hurried, right? They hurried to school last Friday. So if then the base form ends in a short vowel and a consonant, right? We need to then double the consonant, right? And add ed. For example, jog, right? Jog. So today I jog. Yesterday I jogged, which is Jogged, right? And it says if the base form ends in a short vowel and a consonant, and then we double the consonant. Like, for example, jog, double G for jogged, ED, right? All right, so now we are going to our test. All right, so we need to complete the sentence with the verb within the past tense, right? We need to complete the sentence with the verb in the past tense. The freezing mountain climbers shiver in the icy cold. We need to select the past tense, right? Is it shiver or shivered? Shiver or they shivered, right? We need to select the correct word. So if we select the correct past tense form, then we will say that they shivered, right? Because shiver means something that they're doing now, but we're talking about the past. Mandy and Oscar, they admire. We need to choose the correct form of verb which shows the past tense. So Mandy and Oscar, they admire or admired Carmen's courage. So they admire today. Yesterday they admired Carmen's courage. So admired is our past tense regular verb. The children decorate the house with paper flowers. We need to select the correct word that best shows the verb within the past tense. Decorate or decorated. So decorate or decorated. So the children decorate or decorated the house with paper flowers. All right, so if we select the correct form of verb within the past tense, and then decorate is something that you're doing now. However, in the past, they decorated, right? Which means that decorate ends with an E. So we are then just going to add the D, right, for decorated. So decorated is our verb within the past tense. Yes, so if you say decorated, then well done. So decorated is correct. We're going to do the last one. Janelle and Dalton enjoy a healthy dinner, right? We need to complete the sentence with the verb in the past tense. Janelle and Dalton enjoy a healthy dinner. So we need to choose the past tense. Is it enjoy or enjoyed, right? And remember, we said that we add an ed to the specific verb in order to change it from a regular present tense verb to a regular past tense verb. So is it enjoy a healthy dinner or enjoyed a healthy dinner? All right, so we can say enjoyed, where we add an ed at the end. All right, so that is basically the end of our lesson on regular past tense, right? And we went over what the past tense is. And the past tense, it usually tells us about something that has already happened. And regular past tense verbs, it mainly ends in EY, right? ED, right? So that is the most common regular, let's say, a regular past tense verb, right? It's where we add either ed, or we add d, or we add ied, right? All right, so that is the end of our lesson. I really hope that the lesson was informative, and you should have an amazing evening further. Goodbye.